Hello, my friends. My name is Silas Crawford, and if there is an old pocket knife sitting in a kitchen drawer, tackle box, dresser, toolbox, or cigar box that belonged to your father or grandfather, do not assume it is ordinary. Just because it looks small and worn, pocket knives are one of the strongest collectible tool categories in America, and the right examples can sell for hundreds or even thousands of dollars. The trick is that the value is usually hiding in a place almost nobody checks, not on the blade face, not on the handle, right down at the base of the blade beside the pivot in a tiny stamp called the tang stamp. That little mark can tell you who made the knife, where it came from, and often when it was made. Today, I am showing you 10 old pocket knives and knife families I always stop for, what the tang stamp should look like, how the handle and pattern affect value, and which condition problems can turn a $400 knife into a $40 one. Before we start, tell me where you are watching from and whether you still have a pocket knife that belonged to your father, grandfather, or another relative. And stay with me to number 5, because one of the quietest names in the whole hobby can be worth around $1,000 while people walk past it because they simply do not recognize the stamp. Let me be honest first. Most modern pocket knives are not worth a fortune. Common recent knives can live in the tens of dollars. Before I ever price one, I separate age from rarity because an old knife can still be common, while a slightly later knife in the right scarce pattern can command serious collector money. Quick favor before we start reading these tiny stamps. If you like learning how to identify valuable old tools and household pieces before somebody sells them for pocket change, subscribe to the channel. Every week, I break down makers, dates, markings, patterns, materials, and the little details that separate common objects from collector pieces. And the next one may already be sitting in your own drawer. Now open the main blade carefully and look at the tang, the thick base of the blade right beside the pivot. That stamp is the fingerprint of the knife. You may see a manufacturer name, city, country, model number, or a style of logo that only belongs to one period. Use side lighting and a magnifying glass if the stamp is faint. A deep, crisp, original stamp is better than one worn nearly smooth because it is easier to authenticate and date. Do not polish the tang aggressively trying to make it readable. You can erase the very evidence that creates the value. Case is the perfect brand to learn first because collectors love its dating system. On many case knives, the tang stamp changes by era. Tested XX generally points toward the pre-war period from roughly 1920 through 1940. Case X was associated with roughly 1940 through 1964. Later marks include XX, USA, and then the famous dot system. In the classic dot system, 10 dots represent 1970, and 1 dot disappears for each following year of the decade. That means the tiny punctuation around the stamp can date the knife closely. Remington works differently. Their pocket knife production was concentrated in a relatively short window, roughly 1920 through 1940, which is one reason collectors pay attention. Circle stamps are associated with stronger top-line pieces, while straight-line stamps tend to sit lower in the hierarchy. Remington, UMC, and Made in USA markings, along with tang codes and changes in shields, can help narrow the date, especially through the late 1920s and early 1930s. Country marks help too. Sheffield, England sends you toward British cutlery. Solingen or Germany points toward German manufacture. Made in Japan generally points toward post-war import production rather than the older American and English material we are focusing on today. Then inspect the handle. Mother of pearl, genuine stag, jigged bone, amber bone, and old celluloid can dramatically increase interest compared with modern plastic or Delrin. A pearl-handled Whittler or stag congress can be a completely different market from a plain synthetic-handled user. The shield matters too. That is the small metal emblem inlaid into the handle. On Remington knives, the famous bullet-shaped shield is one of the most recognizable details in the hobby. Pattern matters just as much as maker. Learn the shapes: jack, trapper, stockman, congress, canoe, barlow, whittler, peanut, sowbelly, and penknife. A discontinued pattern can be rarer than a familiar one from the same company. Now test what collectors call the walk and talk. Open and close the blades. A strong snap tells you the backspring is still healthy. Weak or lazy action can mean wear or mechanical problems. Look at blade fullness too. If decades of sharpening have reduced a broad original blade to a narrow sliver, value falls. Original handle scales, a tight shield, crisp stamps, and full blades help. The original box and papers can make a surprisingly big difference. Married knives, where parts from different knives have been assembled together, are a serious authenticity problem. A replacement blade, swapped handle, or shield from the wrong era can create a knife that looks plausible until the details are compared. Number 10 is case XX, the base of this whole countdown and one of the names you are most likely to find in an inherited drawer. Open the main blade and inspect the tang for case XX or one of the related era-specific stamps, then identify the pattern and handle. A common recent case can be worth only tens of dollars. Vintage examples can move into the hundreds. Collectors love case because the company's dating systems make the hunt measurable. You are not simply buying an old case. You are buying a specific pattern from a specific stamp era with a specific handle material and condition. Check the snap. And check blade fullness. Read the pattern number if present. Look for original jigged, bone, or stag. A clean old case with full blades in its original box is a different proposition from the same pattern sharpened down and carried for 40 years. Number 9 is case-tested XX from roughly 1920 through 1940. Look for tested XX in block letters on the tang and pay close attention to old brown or amber jigged bone handles with honest patina. This is one of the more desirable early case eras because it predates the common post-war production most people know. Right? A good original jackknife can land around $200 to $400. Scarcer patterns in near mint condition can move beyond $600, and an original box can push strong auction examples higher. The danger is restoration. Do not polish the blades until they shine like mirrors. Do not replace a worn shield simply because it wiggles slightly. Do not sand old bone because the color looks uneven. Those signs of age help establish originality. If you found tested XX on a knife that belonged to your grandfather, would you carry it again or retire it to the cabinet? Tell me below. Number 8 is the case dot system family and classic collectible patterns, including knives such as a 10 dot 1970 example or a large 4-blade Congress in red bone. The identification begins with counting the dots in the tang stamp and then matching the pattern. That exact dating is what makes these knives fun to collect. 2 case knives that look nearly identical from across the table may come from different years and have different values. Traditional patterns such as Congress, Trapper, Stockman, Canoe, Barlow, Whittler, Peanut, Sobelly, and Penknife all have their own collector followings. Unused examples command a premium because pocket knives were made to be carried. Values range from tens into several hundreds, depending on the pattern, handle, year, rarity, and condition. A large red bone Congress with crisp blades and strong snap is far more interesting than a common recent synthetic handled knife. Number 7 is the Remington UMC bullet knife from the late 1920s into the 1930s. This is one of the most recognizable American collectible knives. Look for Remington UMC on the tang, often with Made in USA, and inspect the shield. The famous bullet shield is literally shaped like a cartridge or bullet and is a major clue. Many desirable examples use jigged bone or stag handles. Remington's relatively short production period, roughly 2 decades, keeps collector supply tighter than brands that produce similar patterns continuously for generations. Well-preserved bullet knives with crisp stamps and original handles can bring strong money, and rare patterns sit near the grail level for mainstream American pocket knife collectors. But this is also one of the most heavily faked categories. A beautiful bullet shield does not prove anything by itself. The tang stamp, shield, handle wear, blade shape, hardware, and overall age must agree. A knife that looks suspiciously perfect deserves extra scrutiny. Fake tang stamps can be struck into generic knives. Fresh lettering cutting through old patina is a warning. Number 6 is Winchester pocket knives. The Winchester name creates immediate crossover because gun collectors recognize it, even when knife collectors do not. Look for a Winchester tang stamp and then identify the pattern, handle, and production era. Winchester's knife production was limited compared with the endless modern output of many brands, and scarce patterns can bring serious prices. Ordinary examples may trade in the hundreds, while rare patterns can move into the thousands. Rarity is what creates the ceiling. I never buy a Winchester knife simply because the stamp is exciting. I check whether the blade shape fits the pattern, whether the handle material is right, whether the shield and hardware look original, and whether sharpening has reduced the blades. A rare pattern with full blades can be a major find. A common pattern rebuilt from mixed parts is not. Number 5 is Cattaraugus Cutlery of Little Valley, New York. And this is the sleeper I told you about at the beginning. The name does not have the instant recognition of Case Remington or Winchester. And that is exactly why good examples still get overlooked. Look for Cattaraugus on the tang and research the pattern. The company was known for high-quality cutlery before the Second World War, and strong examples can sell around $500 to $1,200 when the blades remain full and the knife has not been over-sharpened. This is the kind of knife that can sit in a drawer for 50 years because nobody in the family recognizes the maker. The stamp is the secret. A worn-out Cattaraugus is one thing. A crisp, full-bladed example with original bone or stag is another. Number 4 is the broader family of classic American collector knives from makers such as Schatt and Morgan, Queen, Robeson, Schrade, and Ulster. Open the main blade and read the tang stamp carefully. Then identify the pattern because a common stockman from a familiar era can be worth modest money, while an older discontinued Congress, Whittler, Jack, or unusual multi-blade pattern can move into the hundreds and beyond. Construction quality is the clue that often catches my eye first. Tight back springs, well-fitted bolsters, attractive jigged bone, good blade grinds, and shields that sit cleanly in the handle. Robeson, Schrade, and Ulster all produce knives that reward careful study because the exact stamp and pattern matter far more than the name alone. Values commonly begin in the hundreds for desirable vintage examples and rise with rarity, condition, handle material, and completeness. Number 3 takes us across the Atlantic to old Sheffield pocket knives, especially 19th century work by makers such as George Wolstenholme and the famous iStar XL mark. Look for Sheffield or Sheffield, England, along with the cutler's name or trademark. On older Wolstenholme knives, iStar XL is one of the marks that makes collectors pay attention. Some 19th century stamps were hand-struck, so the lettering can show tiny irregularities that are very different from a modern laser mark. Pieces from the 1850s and surrounding decades belong to a deep tradition of English cutlery, and strong examples can sell from hundreds into thousands when the age, maker, pattern, condition, and rarity line up. What I do not want is a blade sharpened until half the original profile is gone, modern replacement scales, or a suspiciously fresh stamp. Cross the tang stamp with pattern, construction, handle material, and documented examples. If you found iStar XL in a cigar box at an estate sale, would you recognize that tiny symbol as a maker's trademark? Tell me below. Because a mark that small can completely change what you think you are holding. Number 2 is the fancy handled pocket knife, especially mother of pearl genuine stag, finely jigged bone, and complex patterns such as Whittler's, Congress knives, and elegant pen knives. Mother of pearl should show natural depth, shifting color, and irregular internal structure rather than the flat repetition of imitation material. The handle alone does not guarantee value, but pair premium material with a respected maker, rare pattern, full blades, strong snap, and original hardware, and the price can move from hundreds into thousands on exceptional examples. A Whittler with 3 original blades, a fine split back spring, and pearl scales is not comparable to the same frame with 1 replacement blade. Inspect pearl carefully for hairline cracks around pins because natural shell can fracture. Replacement handles can be beautiful and still reduce collector value because originality is part of the object. Number 1 is the rare historical or provenance-driven pocket knife, the category where discontinued patterns, scarce makers, exceptional condition, and documented history all come together. This includes rare folding bowies from the 19th century, unusual limited production patterns, special editions with real historical significance, and knives by scarce makers such as Miller Brothers, Union Razor of Tidiout, or Platts Brothers. It can also include a knife with documentation linking it to a notable owner, military service, company, event, or collection. This is the true top of the hobby because scarcity alone is powerful, but scarcity plus history creates another audience entirely. The best examples can sell for thousands at specialist auction. A handwritten note saying, "Grandpa carried this in the war," is a clue, not proof. Save photographs, letters, boxes, receipts, military papers, old collection tags, and anything that establishes chain of ownership. Never separate paperwork from the knife just because the paper looks unimportant. And this is also where condition becomes brutally important. A rare knife with mint blades, original handle, correct shield, crisp tang stamps, factory finish, and original box can command a huge premium over the same model carried hard and sharpened for decades. Now let us turn all 10 categories into a method you can use tonight. Step 1. Open the main blade and read the tang stamp. Photograph it under side light. Do not scrape it with a file, sandpaper, or polishing wheel. If the stamp is faint, use magnification and move the light until the letters cast shadows. Write down every word, symbol, dot, star, circle, and location exactly. Those tiny details may be the date. Step 2. Identify the manufacturer's dating system. For case separate tested XX, case XX, XX USA, and the later dot systems. When you are looking at the classic 1970s dot system, count the dots rather than guessing the year. 10 dots represent 1970, then 1 disappears each year through the decade. For Remington, compare the tang stamp style, including circle versus straight line formats, the Remington UMC and Made in USA wording, date codes where applicable, and changes in the shield. Remington's roughly 1920 to 1940 production window is one of the reasons genuine early knives are so collectible. Step 3. Read country of origin. Sheffield, England, Solingen, Germany, and Made in Japan send you toward different production histories. Step 4. Identify the pattern. Is it a Jack, Trapper, Stockman, Congress, Canoe, Barlow, Whittler, Peanut, Sowbelly, penknife, scout knife, or another multi-blade form? Search the actual pattern number if one is stamped. A discontinued or unusually large pattern can be far scarcer than a common shape from the same maker. Step 5. Identify the handle. Mother of pearl, stag, jig bone, amber bone, and old celluloid generally deserve more attention than later plastic or Delrin. Do not test antique celluloid aggressively or expose it to unnecessary heat. Simply identify it carefully and compare it with known examples. Step 6. Inspect the shield. A case shield, Remington bullet shield, or maker-specific emblem can help confirm pattern and era. A shield that is loose, incorrectly shaped, newly fitted, or inconsistent with the tang stamp can signal replacement or a married knife. Step 7 is the walk and talk. Open every blade carefully. Does it walk smoothly through the arc? Does it talk with a firm snap into open and closed positions? Strong backsprings help. But do not repeatedly snap a fragile 19th century knife merely to prove a point. Look for blade rub, side play broken springs, and blades that sit too high or too low when closed. Step 8, judge blade fullness. Compare the current profile with documented examples. Years of sharpening can remove an astonishing amount of steel. A narrow blade with a recurve where the original should have been broad is a major value problem. Original factory grind lines and full tips are desirable. Heavy pitting that reaches through the stamp hurts too. Step 9, check originality across the entire knife. Handle scales, pins, bolsters, liners, shields, springs, and blades should make sense together. A married knife combines parts from different knives and can fool buyers because every individual component may be old. Look for mismatched wear, blades from different stamp eras, pins that look disturbed, or a shield style that belongs to another period. A replaced handle or shield does not necessarily make the knife worthless, but it changes what you should pay and how you should describe it. Step 10, watch for deliberate fakes. Remington bullet knives are especially notorious. A counterfeit can begin with a genuine old knife and receive a fake tang stamp or bullet shield, which makes age alone useless as proof. Compare stamp typography, depth, placement, shield shape, jigging pattern, blade profile, and hardware with documented originals. Fresh, sharp letters cutting through old patina deserve suspicion. So does an impossibly perfect knife with a famous rare pattern and no believable history. Winchester and other high-value names can be faked too. Authentication is a consistency test, not a single trick. Now check the box. Collectors sometimes throw packaging aside because they only care about the knife, but original boxes, wrappers, catalogs, guarantee papers, and labels can significantly raise value and help prove originality. A near mint knife in the correct original box is a different market from the same knife loose. Photograph the box markings and keep papers flat and dry. Do not tape an old box back together with modern clear tape before an expert sees it. When you are ready to research value, start with completed eBay listings and select the sold filter. Search the maker plus exact pattern, tang stamp era, and handle material. Case tested. Jack jigged bone is more useful than old case knife. Remington UMC bullet stag is more useful than old Remington. Cattaraugus plus the pattern number is better than searching the brand alone. Compare blade fullness, snap, handle originality, shield, box, and overall condition. An asking price is only somebody's hope. A sold result shows that a buyer actually paid, then use Tang stamp databases such as All About Pocket Knives and brand-specific references such as the Case Collectors Club to compare stamp eras and patterns. For a knife that appears to be worth serious money, especially a rare Winchester, Remington bullet, 19th century Sheffield knife, premium pearl or stag piece, or documented historical knife, talk to a reputable cutlery dealer or specialist appraiser before selling. Values throughout this video are ranges, not guarantees. Maker, pattern, handle material, condition, rarity, originality, box, and paperwork can move a price dramatically. Common modern pocket knives are usually inexpensive. The hundreds and thousands belong to the right brands, eras, rare patterns, premium materials, and exceptional historical examples. That is what makes the title true, without pretending every knife in Grandpa's drawer is a fortune. But the possession angle is real. Millions of fathers and grandfathers carried pocket knives, and many families still have one sitting untouched in a dresser or toolbox. The valuable detail may be no bigger than your thumbnail. So tonight, open that old knife carefully and read the tang before you clean it, sharpen it, sell it, or give it away. Look for K6, Tested XX, the Dots, Remington UMC, a bullet shield, Winchester, Cattaraugus, Schatt and Morgan, Queen Robeson Schrade, Ulster Sheffield, iStar XL, Miller Brothers, Union Razor Titty Out, Platts Brothers, or any unfamiliar stamp that deserves research. Also keep an eye out for marbles, Utica Cutlery, KA Bar or Union Cut Company, Camilla Spoker with a tree mark, advertising knives, watch fob knives, and Old Scout or multi-blade patterns. None is automatically valuable, but each can open a research trail. Which stamp would make you stop everything if you found it tonight? A Remington bullet, a rare Winchester, a Cattaraugus, or an old Sheffield iStar XL? Tell me below. The secret value in a pocket knife is rarely hidden in the shine. It is hidden in the tang stamp, the pattern, the handle, and the history that almost nobody bothered to read. Thanks.